The night the city learned how fragile power could be began with a man in a faded janitor's uniform standing alone under courthouse lights, holding a paper bag with his son's dinner growing cold inside. Rain streaked down the stone steps. Cameras blinked like restless eyes, and inside the building a billionaire's legal empire was collapsing in silence. Everyone believed the story was already written, that money had finally met its match and would lose. No one expected that the turning point would come from a single father who scrubbed floors after midnight and refused to look away when everyone else did. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and ordinary people rising in extraordinary moments, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us what humanity still looks like. Marcus Hale had learned to survive quietly. After his wife passed, the world narrowed to two responsibilities that mattered more than anything else: keeping a roof over his son Noah's head, and teaching the boy that dignity did not depend on titles or money. By day, Marcus worked maintenance shifts in a downtown office tower in Chicago, polishing marble floors that reflected lives he could never afford. By night, he cleaned a courthouse wing, moving unseen through hallways where powerful decisions were made. He had once dreamed of becoming a paralegal, studying law at night while working construction, but grief and bills ended that path. Still, he read case summaries during breaks and listened carefully when lawyers argued, absorbing the language of justice like a second heartbeat. Sarah Whitmore had never imagined standing alone in that courthouse. As the founder and CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech firm, she had been celebrated as untouchable, a self-made icon who turned code into cities. Then came the accusations, a complex web of corporate sabotage, false filings, and a partner's betrayal that turned public opinion overnight. When her high-priced legal team withdrew days before the hearing, citing conflicts and reputational risk, the press smelled blood. Investors fled, friends vanished, and Sarah found herself walking through security scanners without a shield, facing a system that suddenly felt enormous and unforgiving. Marcus first noticed her the way janitors notice everything, by the way she moved through space as if carrying invisible weight. He saw her late at night, sitting alone on a bench, reviewing stacks of documents with shaking hands. He recognized the look because he had worn it himself after his wife's funeral, the look of someone trying to keep control while the ground disappeared beneath them. Over several nights, he watched lawyers breeze past her without meeting her eyes. He watched reporters whisper. He watched guards shift uncomfortably, unsure how to treat a fallen titan. What Marcus also saw were the files. He recognized inconsistencies, patterns that did not add up, signatures that seemed forced. Years of quiet observation had trained him to notice details others overlooked. He knew the cleaning schedule well enough to know when offices were empty, and during breaks he had access to public records terminals. The more he read, the clearer it became that Sarah Whitmore was being positioned as a scapegoat for crimes engineered by people who would never see a courtroom. The morning her lawyer formally withdrew, the courthouse buzzed with anticipation. Sarah walked in without an entourage, her posture steady but her eyes tired. Marcus stood near a trash cart, watching as whispers followed her like shadows. He thought of Noah waiting at home, of the promise he had made to always do what was right even when it cost something. He thought of the law books he never finished, and the belief that justice was not a spectator sport. When proceedings began, the absence of defense was a physical thing, a hollow space that echoed through the room. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Everything in him warned that stepping forward would risk his job, his reputation, and the fragile stability he had built for his son. Yet something stronger rose up, the same force that had carried him through nights of grief and mornings of exhaustion. He knew the truth had a voice, even if it came from an unexpected place. By the time the judge acknowledged the lack of counsel, Marcus had already moved. He presented himself not as a savior, but as a citizen with evidence, requesting permission to submit findings he had uncovered through public records and procedural knowledge gained over years of observation. The room shifted. Skepticism gave way to curiosity. The judge allowed the submission, and within hours, timelines unraveled. Financial trails pointed away from Sarah and toward shell companies linked to her former partner. Emails revealed manipulation. The narrative cracked. Over the following days, Marcus worked through nights balancing his janitor shifts with assembling documentation. He slept little, surviving on coffee and determination. Sarah watched from across the room as this man, who had once emptied her office trash, stood steady under pressure, defending truth without ego. The prosecution stumbled as facts piled up. Public sentiment wavered. News headlines softened. The case that was supposed to be swift became complicated, then uncertain. When the ruling finally came, it was not dramatic in the way movies promise. It was quiet, procedural, devastating only to the lies that had thrived in the dark. Charges were dismissed pending further investigation into the real architects of the scheme. Sarah Whitmore walked out into the daylight, cleared but changed, understanding now how thin the line was between power and powerlessness. Marcus returned to his routine, expecting nothing. He picked up Noah from school, cooked simple dinners, and showed up to work on time. Weeks later, an envelope arrived, with an offer he never sought. Sarah had used her influence not to elevate herself, but to open doors for the man who stood when she could not. A legal education fund was established in Marcus's name, paired with a flexible position in corporate ethics oversight. More importantly, scholarships were created for children of single parents working essential jobs because Sarah understood that systems only changed when people did. Before we reach the end, please comment below with the word kindness if this story reminded you that courage can come from anywhere. Your comments help this message reach more hearts. The city eventually moved on, as cities always do, but something lasting remained. Noah grew up watching his father choose integrity over fear, learning that heroes did not always wear suits. Sarah rebuilt her company with transparency at its core, never forgetting the man who defended her when her world went silent. And somewhere between courthouse halls and quiet kitchens, a truth settled in, that the measure of a person was not what they owned, but what they were willing to risk for someone else. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe again in humanity, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive, and together we can remind the world that kindness still matters.